So Eddie Howe has been talking in his press conference, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks like Wissa could be back after the next international break, as he has confirmed that the striker does not need surgery. And also, Bradford City manager Graham Alexander has confirmed that his time at Burnley was tainted because he didn't get on with Eddie Howe. Let's take a look. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Toon Review YouTube channel. My name's Paul. Thank you once again for tuning in to your Newcastle United latest news. And Eddie Howe has been speaking ahead of the game against Bradford City, of course, in the Carabao Cup tomorrow night. And the major talking point was really the situation with Yoane Wissa, of course. And Wissa, who's been missing since he signed for Newcastle, injured on international duty, hasn't been able to play. And, of course, is a big miss, because one thing we do know since the start of the season is we're missing that out-and-out striker, somebody who will be around the penalty area and put the ball in the back of the net. Hopefully, Wissa is going to be that guy. But we're going to touch on the points that Eddie Howe had to make in his press conference. And then a bizarre report in an interview with Bradford City manager Graham Alexander on how when he was at Burnley, he did not see eye to eye with Eddie Howe, although they've both talked about mutual respect for each other now as they're set to face each other in the Carabao Cup. But Eddie started his press conference by saying he always enjoys the games and preparing for them. We embrace every competition we're in, and the Carabao Cup is a competition we love, so we're desperate to do well again. This, of course, is the first time in a long, long time that we have been defending a trophy. Of course, winning it last season, the euphoria after winning it, we all want that again. We all want that euphoria. And I don't subscribe to this being a Mickey Mouse Cup in the slightest. For me, every other fan base saying that, it's just bad apples for me, because they wish they were there and not Newcastle United winning it. So for me, again, we want the euphoria of Wembley. We know we've got the side that can get there again, and Bradford City is a very, very good start for us. Not taking anything away from them. They're bringing nearly 5,000 fans up to St James's Park tomorrow night, so they will make a noise, and they will make it difficult for Newcastle. Now, on the game at Bournemouth, he said, I think we have a strong squad, and I think the rotations we made in the game were a reflection of that. 2 years ago, we got to the stage where we couldn't rotate anybody. We're trying to navigate the situation better this time round, but we still want to win games. We still have to win games and be competitive. I thought we performed strongly, albeit without a real goal threat. Now, I kind of agree with that we did put in a decent performance. The game itself was shockingly bad, but the clean sheet, again, very strong defensively. That has to be taken as a positive. And of course, being able to change 7 players, we can't remember the last time that Eddie Howe or anybody was able to do that, for that matter. So to be able to make the 7 changes and still put up a competitive side is a positive. Whether we think or not some of those players that did step in were good enough, i.e. Joe Willock, then that's for us fans to debate, isn't it? But I was a little surprised by the comments saying, you know, we still want to win games, because I think everybody that saw that side against Bournemouth are kind of looking at that and saying, well, did we really, really push for a win there? I'm not sure we did. However, don't get me wrong, a point at the Vitality is fantastic, considering previous games against Bournemouth when we've really, really struggled in them. To come away with a point is a bonus. And, everybody says, pundits and ex-players alike saying, you get something for your away games, just don't lose them and make sure you win your home games. So, if we're going along that philosophy, then we've had a very good start of the season, but we're dropping points and we can't afford to drop any more. But this is a distraction now from the Premier League. This is an opportunity, I think, for certain players to get out there tomorrow night and score some goals and get their confidence levels up in front of goal. I think Eddie will play a reasonably strong side tomorrow night. I know we've got Arsenal at the weekend, but I genuinely think that Eddie does take this tournament, this Carabao Cup, very seriously. Of course, defending it this year. So I do think we're going to play a strong side, and the chance to get some goals and finally get that goal machine running, which is what we've been looking for since the start of the season. Now, on the squad rotation, he said there'll be an element of rotation again. The guys that have played 3 times last week, we might look to give them a rest. We want to pick a strong team, and we want to try and progress, as you have to get the balance right. You don't want players to lose rhythm, and that's really important. So again, just like I've been saying there before, I think he will put out a decently strong side. He doesn't want to lose the rhythm of the players or leave them out too long. Bruno, Joe Linton, they didn't play at all at the weekend. Does that mean they play some part against Bradford? Possibly. So I'd be looking for maybe Ramsdale to make his debut. I think Dan Burn will miss out. I think Botman will play. Emil Kraft might play at right back for Livramento. I'm not sure about Lewis Hall. We'll talk about all that anyway tonight at 7 o'clock in the preview for the game and see which way Eddie might go. Tonali, I think, will miss out as well. He deserves a well-earned rest, doesn't he? He's been absolutely fantastic for us. So, yeah, there'll be a rotation again. Absolutely there will, ahead of the Arsenal game. But we've got to look at this game as to get our confidence levels up and really get some goals. Now, obviously, Eddie's a big fan of the Carabao Cup, and he said the experiences we've been through in the competition, not just last year, but 2 seasons ago, are memorable to say the least. They're some of my strongest memories. The whole experience of the competition is a great one, and because you go into it early in the season, it has a freshness to it. We're up against tough opponents. They're on a strong winning run and have beaten 2 championship teams to get to this point. So agreed. Bradford are on a very, very good run, beating 2 championship sides. We can't, I don't think even since the Cambridge game all those years ago in the FA Cup and then losing to Sheffield Wednesday again, I think they've been big lessons in the past for Eddie Howe to not take these sides with a pinch of salt. These are professional football outlets that they play football every week. They are capable on the day. And I think that's what he's alluding to. You're playing against Bradford. We can't write them off, because we haven't had a strong start of the season, winning-wise, or scoring goals. So Bradford might look at that and think, hey, let's just make sure that we don't concede early doors, and it might rattle Newcastle. You never know. But I think Eddie will play a formation that will really suit us tomorrow night, and he will go out to really win the game and win the game well. Now, the Wissa comment, or Wissa, I know there's different names, but he said Wissa, didn't he, in the Premier League thing? So we'll go with Wissa. He's receiving treatment and no operation is needed. I think we're looking at the other side of the international break, and we hope he can be fit and available for that first game, which is against Brighton. Now, look, I think it's very, very positive news that he doesn't need surgery, because there was a lot of rumours banded around last week that Wissa had picked up an ACL injury, and it was a lot more serious than what Newcastle was saying. Eddie did allude to the fact that he hasn't really spoken to Wissa or seen Wissa very much since he's been back from international duty, because he's been receiving treatment and he's been out of the side. Eddie's been very much concentrating on the here and now and who's available. But I think the fact that he doesn't need surgery is a massive bonus to us. It is really frustrating, because we want Wissa back in the side. We want to see what he's going to offer Newcastle United before he goes off on African Nations duty, of course, which is another shot in the arm to us in January. So we want him to play as many games for us as we can, don't we? And we want to see what he's going to offer. And I think he will offer a lot more than what we've seen already this season. Voldemar has started very strongly, looks a really promising player. Great touch, great interplay, linking up with everybody. And we need Wissa there. There's an out-and-out goal scorer, really. And he's proved last season in the Premier League that he can certainly do that. 19 goals, none of them penalties. This guy can score goals, and we need him back, and need him back very quickly. Now, on the other striker, he did mention Voldemar. He says, I thought overall he had a decent game against Bournemouth. Some of his link-up play in the build-up was really good. He was a focal point that we needed and enabled us to get higher up the pitch. As a team, we didn't function particularly well in the attacking half. There's no denying that. We weren't creating chances for him. As a centre-forward, you are reliant on that service, and we didn't provide him with enough. We have to take responsibility for that and try to work to put that right, but I see no reason why we won't score goals. Now, that's a very important point that he's made there, and I think it's come across very strongly. He obviously knows that we're struggling, and it was good to listen to him say that the team isn't functioning properly at the moment, creating the opportunities that Voltemata needs. And he's certainly probably talking about deliveries into the penalty area, getting Voltemata further up the pitch, because obviously he's coming deep to receive the ball and link up play. But when he does that, there's no focal point in the penalty area. And I think that's what he's alluding to there, getting somebody in there to score the goals, which is why we need Wissa back as well, because there's a heavy load on Voltemata at the moment. And, he's already admitted that the pace of the Premier League is very different to what he's been used to, which is understandable. We all know the players that come into the Premier League are very shocked by the speed and the pace and the physicality of the league. So Voltemata will improve on that side of things. There's no doubt about it. But we need somebody in there who's going to put the ball in the net. And we need, as Eddie said there, to really get the link-up play going and give him some service, because he hasn't had any yet. And apart from the Wolves game, when he got that one bit of service from Murphy, he put it in the back of the net. And that's what we're looking for. So positive for me that Eddie Howe has identified that anyway, that the team isn't linking up particularly well at the minute. But it's early doors. It's very early doors in the season. Now, he was asked about scoring goals, because we highlighted this on the show last night and my video yesterday afternoon about the lack of goals. The XG is way down, and all the stats, our attacking stats, lead to the bottom half of the Premier League. And it's not really been good enough. But it's very early doors to put a stat like that up, because we've got a few players missing through suspension, through injury, whatever it may be. We haven't, I don't think, seen or said our very best yet because of that. Wissa is a big miss, as we've said. Gordon's been missing for the last 3 Premier League games. I think he needs to get on the left and get a run of games. So we haven't had that ideal lineup that I think Eddie Howe wants to put out on the pitch. But he will get that opportunity soon. He went on to say it's up to everybody to chip in with goals. Historically, we've done that really well. Our defenders have been regular goal scorers, either from set plays or open play. I'm not sure about that. We're looking at sources of goals from everywhere, and we can't be reliant on any one department. The creativity of the team in the midfield and the wide areas has been really strong for us, and our fullbacks have been some of our best attackers in recent seasons, and that has to be the case again. I find it, I do disagree with Eddie on certain points there, I have to say. Talking about the defenders from set players, I mean, when exactly is he seeing different set players to what we are? Because whenever we watch a game, myself, you guys out there, we all know that, when we get a corner or a free kick, we don't get the excitement that maybe we should when we get an opportunity to put a cross in or a corner. It doesn't work like that with us, because we're seeing the same things and we're struggling with the same things. The set pieces on Sunday at Bournemouth weren't particularly great. The long throws from Livramento, we had Voltemata, we had Botman, we had Chow, massive individuals. And yet we're doing the same thing over and over again, looking for that flick on at the front post, blah, blah, blah. And it never seems to work or never comes to fruition. So I'm not sure what Eddie's seeing there. But look, what is obvious to me, what Eddie's saying there is work going on behind the scenes to put these right. The fullbacks pressing forward, getting on the attack. Certainly Lewis Hall back in the side. We know what he's capable of. Certainly Tino, Trippier to a degree as well. But it's very important now we start seeing the results of these set pieces, changing it up a bit. I mean, when we get a set piece from maybe the halfway line or just before the halfway line, it's the same one every time, isn't it? We lob that ball to the D on the edge of the area looking for a flick on. And it's very rare that we actually do anything. And that's something we've mentioned a lot, is that when the defenders, our centre-backs are superb defensively, win every ball. Yet in the other penalty area, we struggle, and it's a little bit baffling. But hopefully that'll be put right soon, and we can start seeing some goals from set pieces, which would be very nice, of course. Now, finally, Graham Alexander has basically been in an interview ahead of the game tomorrow night. He's the Bradford City manager, and he was at Burnley for a short time when Eddie Howe was manager. Now, Graham Alexander was 39 years old at the time and the captain of the club when Eddie Howe was there. But he said he had a very, very difficult time under Eddie Howe. Despite being several years older than Eddie Howe, the Bradford manager played under Eddie Howe at Burnley, which must have been very, very strange. However, 6 months after Howe's arrival, Alexander left Burnley by mutual consent after he cancelled his own contract. And he's described it as the most difficult time in his playing career. Reflecting on working under Eddie Howe, he said, Eddie came in during the January in the year after we got relegated from the Premier League. He had done a brilliant job at Bournemouth in his first spell there. We were mid-table with ambitions to get back up straight away, but the season didn't pan out that way. I was captain, but didn't actually start a game under Eddie. He wanted to go a different way with the team. There were a lot of senior players in that squad. I'm not talking about 29 to 30, but 34 to 35, and myself. I was 39 at the time. It was probably the most difficult period of my time under Eddie. I was caught in the crossfire between one team being created out of another. I was probably the biggest casualty of that, which I didn't handle particularly well. I was obviously desperate to play, and I knew I didn't have 5 or 6 years in front of me to enjoy my football anymore. But Eddie had his own plans for what he wanted to create at Burnley, which I understand now as a manager myself. He was very coach-minded. Excuse me. He was on the grass every day, working with the players, and had a clear idea of how he wanted them to play. So we all know how Eddie works. He's never changed his philosophy on that. Basically, what he's saying there is exactly what we've seen at Newcastle United. I obviously had a fantastic time at Burnley, but a really important player for them in previous 2 or 3 seasons. But these things can happen. I've got to be honest, I didn't particularly like Eddie at the time, but I'm sure he didn't like me. I don't think I handled that period great. Now, apparently that's all water under the bridge now, because they've both praised each other in press conferences, and Graham Alexander said there that now he's a manager. He understands exactly the route Eddie wanted to go down. So I don't know whether that's going to create any more beef tomorrow night, because it seems like it's all water under the bridge. If something happens during the game and, you know, the managers get a bit heated, maybe we'll see a bit of that old rivalry coming back. So there's a bit of edge, a bit of needle there. I'm sure Graham Alexander wants to get one over Eddie Howe. He would want nothing more. And that would be, I guess, perfect revenge for how he felt at Burnley. But it's interesting quotes there that he feels very, very different now he's a manager, and he understands the situation that Eddie was in and what Eddie was trying to do. So I don't particularly read much into that. But there you go, guys. That is your latest news from the Newcastle United side of things. If you have enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. Very, very important to the channel. And don't forget, we're back at 7 o'clock tonight with the preview of the game and, of course, any other latest news that breaks during the afternoon. But in the meantime, guys, keep voting for us in the Football Content Awards. All the information is pinned at the top of the description. We've made the finals, of course. It's now down to you. So keep voting for us as much as you can, guys, and hopefully we'll bring something back this time around. But enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak to you very, very soon. Take care.